There has been a video that has been doing the rounds on the internet, and it is part of a Sky Sports program, which where three, well, if you'd like to call them experts, but they definitely aren't, are talking about Eddie Howe and why Newcastle should look at sacking him during the summer because before anything negative happens. I've not ever heard anything so ridiculous in my entire life. They're obviously not Newcastle fans. In fact, one of the guys is Rory. He's actually a Chelsea fan. Of course, he's probably a little bit wound up that Newcastle have found form where his own team aren't. But the reason I have done this video is because we are in the summer, and of course, there will be internationals being played around this sort of time. Of course, the World Cup comes along every 4 years, should be played during the summer. Of course, last year was the abnormality of being played in December, which was ridiculous, to be perfectly honest. But um, the reason I come on to that and why I've started this video and why I've done this and why I want to air my opinion is because, of course, the European Championships are coming next summer. And Gareth Southgate vowed after the World Cup to stay on for the European Championships. But will he be staying on beyond that? Do I think he's the right man to take England forwards? Now, I've always been a bit of a fan of Gareth Southgate. He has, to be fair, he has done quite a decent job as England manager. He's done a lot more decent job than a lot of people before him. A lot of people would say that he's probably the first manager since Bobby Robson to actually get an England side really playing. Of course, he got us to our first major final since 1966. But I think there's something lacking there. And I think there's something where he just can't get us across the line. He's also, and this is my opinion, he has the most talented squad since 2002. Personally, if we beat Brazil in the 2002 World Cup in Japan and South Korea, we would have won that World Cup. I'm sure of it. We would have won that World Cup. Um, he's got the most talented side since then. And you could look at that squad and think, well, do they really all play together? Does he get the best from Harry Kane? Does he get the best from other players as well? Um, Jack Grealish, for example, why doesn't he start him more often? Why doesn't there's a lot of question marks. Jordan Pickford in goal. There's going to be big questions about him because Aaron Ramsdale has clearly shown he is one of the best, if not the best, goalkeeper in this country. And you could say the same for Nick Pope. He's really put himself up there as well. Nick Pope, interestingly, and Aaron Ramsdale, interestingly, might actually like my next suggestion, what I think will happen. Now, everybody said, and even Eddie's come out and said that he doesn't want the England job. And I believe him. I do believe he doesn't really want that England job yet. The reasons why I say yet, of course, he is still manager of Newcastle. He's done a fantastic job at Newcastle. He's really continued the great work he did at Bournemouth. He hasn't really got any, even the spell at Burnley wasn't bad. It wasn't a bad spell, but he hasn't really got any points, during his whole management career where you could say he hasn't done particularly that well. He was a really, really good player as well. The only thing with him was he was injury prone a lot of the time. I personally think, although he likes the 9 to 5, well, I call it the 9 to 5. Literally, Eddie Howe turns up at 6 o'clock in the morning, goes is the last one to go home in a lot of occasions. I know Fletcher has said to me before that he doesn't believe Eddie will take the England job or doesn't really want the England job. And again, I believe it, but I think eventually Eddie probably will have his hand forced and will take it. And I'm well, of course, he's still got a decision to not take that job. But firstly, the England job doesn't come along very often. I think he is definitely a shoe-in for it. Some people say about Pep Guardiola and Jose Mourinho. No, no, I just don't. I don't like an English manager should be leading out the England team, and I'm not saying anything against international managers at all. But at the same time, an English manager can understand what winning that World Cup would do for this country, what winning the European Championships even would done for this country. Um, and I think that's what Southgate understands, and that's why he's instilled it. He's quite calm. He's quite a calm-natured manager, Gareth Southgate. Eddie is exactly the same. On the surface, of course, Eddie can be ruthless when he wants to be. He will, no doubt, if he was to become England manager, Jason Tyndall will also be with him as well. So the pair of them would be, it'd be great to see him in England jerseys eventually. I think it will happen. I think it will happen, and I think he will be the next England manager. I'm sorry to Newcastle fans because you know, I know he's loved up there, but I think you've still got quite a while with him. You've still got quite a while, definitely the whole of next season. Beyond that, though, leading England into the World Cup in the US, Canada, and Mexico, that would be, a dream for most people. And I think, money will talk. I think the amount of money that will be offered to Eddie Howe to do that job, will make sense and make his head be turned. He is one of those managers as well who do watch a lot of games and does a lot of self reflection. Really looks at what he can do better, how he can improve, what he can bring to the table. I think he will do that as well. I think he will do that, but also will be looking at other players as well, just like Gareth Southgate does, just like Sven Goran Eriksson did. Will be going around the grounds picking the top talent. But you look at the players that, as well, that he's actually developed and brought through. You look at the likes of Joe Linton, a player who wasn't very good under Steve Bruce, but Eddie made him better, improved him. Um, his whole approach to the game. Eddie will be able to pinpoint players from different sides and bring those players together and make them work the best way together. Um, Personally, I think Eddie Howe would make a hell of a lot of sense for England. And although I do agree that he would miss the regular football, the normal football, the day-to-day football, leading England into a World Cup, I think he would. It would be a dream for most. It would be a dream for most, and I'm sure Eddie would be able to go back to club management. Hopefully when he's become the first manager since Sir Alf Ramsey to win the World Cup. That would be nice. But let me know what you think. I personally think Eddie Howe is the next England manager. If not for this World Cup coming up in 2026, the one after. It will happen. He will, of course, all good things come to an end. All good things had to come to an end here. We were relegated, and I don't think it was Eddie's fault. I don't think it was many of the players' fault. Yeah, one we could mention, but he's been frozen out at Newcastle as well now. So I'm sure he's enjoying training with the under-21s. But I think personally, I think that it just makes sense. It makes sense from a standpoint that this man is somebody who has achieved things. He could be the most successful English manager in a couple of years' times. Let's be honest. Yes, Newcastle, Saudi owners, people will go on about that, but he hasn't overspent. In fact, he's spent shrewdly and he's pinpointed the right sort of players. And that is what is great about Eddie Howe. Now, if he's got a talent pool of all the English players that he can pick from, I think he will make a great success of being an England manager. And I'd love to see it happen. I would love to see it happen. Let me know what your thoughts are. Newcastle fans, please do get in contact and let me know your thoughts as well. I'm sure you won't hate on me for what I've said here on this video. You're very very lucky to have Eddie Howe, and I hope that you have every success, especially in the Champions League. I would love to see Eddie Howe win the Premier League with Newcastle United. You never know. Stranger things have happened. He's not a million miles away from it. I think, he'll just continue and do what he did so well beforehand. Let me know your thoughts. But that is my opinion. We'll find out what yours is. But until the next one, up the cherries, and we'll see you then. Thank you for joining me.